Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The mashed potatoes were getting cold, but nobody seemed to care. We were all too busy pretending this was a normal family dinner at my mother-in-law's house, when everyone knew it was really an intervention disguised as Sunday roast. Tom, honey, could you pass the gravy? Julia's voice had that fake sweetness she used when she was about to throw me under the bus. I'm Tom Grady, 39 years old, and I fix things for a living. Pipes, electrical work, broken cabinets, you name it, I can make it work again. What I apparently couldn't fix was my marriage, though I didn't know it was broken yet. Here you go, sweetheart. I handed her the gravy boat, noticing how she avoided eye contact. Julia was 37, a real estate agent who'd been climbing the social ladder so fast she was getting nosebleeds. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless even for a family dinner. She looked like success, and I looked like the guy who showed up to fix her garbage disposal. So Tom, Monica, Julia's younger sister, started in with that tone. Monica was 35, married to my business partner Rick, and had never met a family secret she couldn't weaponize. How's the handyman business treating you these days? Can't complain. People always need things fixed. I cut into my pot roast, wondering where this was heading. That's nice. Monica exchanged a look with Julia. It's just that Julia's been doing so well with her real estate career. That big commission last month? Wasn't it like 20,000? Julia blushed. Monica, please. I'm just saying, Julia could have done so much better than a handyman. Monica took a large gulp of wine. I mean, no offense, Tom, but you're not exactly ambitious. The table went quiet except for the sound of my daughter Emma's fork scraping her plate. Emma was 12, smart as a whip, and the only person in this room who actually liked me. She shot me a look that said, "Want me to throw mashed potatoes at Aunt Monica?" I smiled at Emma, then looked back at Monica. Probably right, Monica. Good thing I handled Julia's investments. The comment hung in the air like a bad smell. Julia's mother, Dorothy, cleared her throat. Well, I think we should all be grateful for what we have. But Monica wasn't done. It's just that Scott Harlan was asking about Julia the other day. You know Scott? He runs Harlan Mortgage. Very successful. Very available for business partnerships. Julia nearly choked on her wine. Monica, what are you talking about? Oh, just that he thinks you two would make great business partners. Real estate and mortgages go hand in hand, right? He's very impressed with your work ethic. I watched Julia's face turn red. Scott Harlan was 41, married, and had the kind of sleazy charm that worked on women who thought money was sexy. He drove a BMW, wore expensive suits, and had the personality of a used car salesman. Scott's a good guy, I said mildly. His wife Angela seems nice too. We should have them over for dinner sometime. Julia shot me a look that could have melted steel. That's not necessary. Why not? If you're going to be business partners, we should all get to know each other better. I smiled innocently. I could fix that squeaky door in their kitchen. Angela mentioned it last time I saw her at the grocery store. The rest of dinner passed in uncomfortable silence. Emma helped me clear the dishes while the women gossiped in the living room. As I loaded the dishwasher, I could hear Monica's voice getting louder with each glass of wine. I'm just saying, Julia, you deserve someone who matches your ambition. Someone who can keep up with you professionally. Tom's a nice guy, but let's be honest. He's not exactly going places. I dried my hands slowly, thinking about Monica's words. She was right about one thing. Julia could have done better. But what Monica didn't know was that I'd been the silent investor in her husband Rick's construction business for the past 5 years. The business that kept their mortgage paid and their kids in private school. Emma tugged on my sleeve. Dad, Aunt Monica's being mean again. It's okay, kiddo. Sometimes people say things they don't mean. She meant it. Emma was too smart for her own good. Are you and Mom having problems? I looked down at my daughter's concerned face. Nothing you need to worry about, Em. Why don't you go get your backpack ready for school tomorrow? After Emma left, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. A few taps later, I'd transferred my investment out of Rick and Monica's construction business. All $150,000 of it. The account would be empty by morning. I walked back to the living room where Monica was still holding court. Tom, there you are. She was definitely drunk now. We were just talking about Julia's career. Did you know she's been working late almost every night this month? Really? I looked at Julia, who was studying her wine glass like it held the secrets of the universe. That's dedication. Oh, yes, she and Scott have been burning the midnight oil on some big project. Very hands-on work, if you know what I mean. Julia stood up abruptly. Monica, I think you've had enough wine. Have I? I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Julia's outgrown her current situation. I nodded thoughtfully. You know what, Monica? You might be right. The drive home was silent. Emma fell asleep in the back seat, and Julia stared out the passenger window like she was planning her escape route. Monica was out of line tonight, Julia finally said as we pulled into our driveway. Was she? I helped Emma out of the car and watched her stumble sleepily toward the house. She seemed pretty sure about what she was saying. She's drunk and jealous. You know how she gets? Yeah, I know how she gets. I unlocked the front door and held it open for Julia. I also know how you get when you're hiding something. Julia froze in the doorway. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, honey. Just that you've been working a lot of late nights lately. Must be exhausting, all that. Hands-on work with Scott. Her face went pale in the porch light. Tom, It's okay, Julia. I understand ambition. I smiled and kissed her cheek. Sleep well. I've got some early morning business to take care of. As I lay in bed that night, listening to Julia toss and turn beside me, my phone buzzed with a text from Rick. Tom, there's a problem with the business account. Can you call me first thing in the morning? I deleted the text without responding. Some problems solve themselves, and some problems need a little help. I was about to become very helpful. My coffee was still hot when Rick called at 7 a.m., panic thick in his voice. Tom, Jesus Christ, what happened to the business account? It's completely empty. I took a slow sip of coffee and watched Julia rush around the kitchen, getting ready for another busy day at the office. She was wearing a new dress I'd never seen before. Red, expensive looking, the kind of thing you wear when you want to make an impression. What do you mean empty? I asked Rick, though I knew exactly what he meant. I mean zero balance. The payroll's due Friday. We've got 3 jobs running, and there's no money anywhere. Julia grabbed her coffee mug and headed for the door, car keys jangling. She paused when she heard me talking to Rick. That's weird, Rick. You should probably check with your wife about that. Monica handles the books, right? Monica doesn't have access to the main investment account. Only you and I have those passwords. Julia was still standing by the door, pretending to check her phone while obviously listening to every word. Huh. Well, I'm sure we'll figure it out. Maybe there was some kind of banking error. Banking error? Tom, we're talking about $150,000? Yeah, that is a lot of money. I looked directly at Julia. Almost exactly what someone would need to start over somewhere new, wouldn't you say? Julia's face went white. She mumbled something about being late for a showing and practically ran out the door. After Rick hung up, still panicking about payroll and contractors, I poured another cup of coffee and opened Julia's laptop. She'd left it on the kitchen counter in her rush to leave, and she'd forgotten to log out of her email. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not sorry either. The first email that caught my attention was from Scott Harlan, sent at 11:47 p.m. the night before. Can't stop thinking about our meeting today. When can we discuss the private aspects of our partnership? My office has excellent soundproofing. Oh. Julia's response, sent at 11:52 p.m. while I was lying next to her in bed. Soon. Tom's getting suspicious, but he's too trusting to do anything about it. We just... need to be more careful. Scott again. Or we could stop being careful altogether. My divorce lawyer says these things are easier when both parties want out. I screenshot everything before Julia's phone started buzzing with texts. I could see them pop up on her laptop screen through the message sync. Monica, Rick is freaking out about the business account. What did you tell Tom? Julia, nothing. Tom pulled his investment. We're screwed. Monica, why would he do that? Does he know about Scott? Julia, I don't think so. But last night at dinner, you basically announced it to everyone. Thanks for that, by the way. Monica, I was trying to help. You said you wanted out of your marriage. Julia, not like this. Rick's business failing ruins everything. Scott and I were counting on my divorce settlement to start over. I took screenshots of that conversation too, then closed the laptop and finished my coffee. Emma wandered into the kitchen in her pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction. Morning, kiddo. Want some pancakes? Where's Mom? Work. She's got a big project with her business partner. Emma made a face. The slimy guy with the fancy car? That's the one. I ruffled her hair. What makes you think he's slimy? He came to pick up Mom last week when her car was in the shop. He kept looking at her weird, and he smelled like too much cologne. Smart kid. Well, don't worry about him. I don't think he'll be around much longer. While Emma ate her pancakes, I called my buddy Pete. Pete was an ex-cop who ran a small private investigation business, mostly insurance fraud and cheating spouses. We'd been friends since high school, and he was one of the few people who knew exactly how much money I'd made over the years fixing up and flipping houses. Pete, it's Tom. I need a favor. What kind of favor? The kind where you follow my wife around with a camera for a few days. There was a pause. Ah, shit. I'm sorry, man. I was wondering when you'd figure it out. You knew? Tom, everyone knows. Julia and Scott haven't exactly been subtle. I saw them at that new restaurant downtown last week, and they sure weren't discussing mortgage rates. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? He was right. I probably would have made excuses for her, convinced myself there was an innocent explanation. Can you help me or not? Of course. But Tom, what are you planning to do with whatever I find? I watched Emma finish her pancakes, completely oblivious to the fact that her world was about to change forever. I'm going to fix the problem, Pete. It's what I do. That afternoon, I drove to Rick and Monica's house. Rick's truck was in the driveway, and I could hear raised voices through the front door before I even knocked. Monica answered, her eyes red from crying. Tom, thank God you're here. Rick is having some kind of breakdown about the business. Where is he? In his office, calling every bank in town, trying to figure out what happened to the money. I found Rick hunched over his desk, surrounded by financial statements and empty coffee cups. He looked like he'd aged 10 years since yesterday. Tom, Jesus, I've been calling you all day. The bank says you initiated a transfer yesterday evening. They won't tell me where the money went without your authorization. That's because it went to my personal account. Rick stared at me. What? I withdrew my investment, Rick. All of it. But why? We had a deal. That money was supposed to stay in the business for at least 2 more years. Deals change. I sat down across from his desk. Especially when family members start running their mouths about things that are none of their business. Understanding dawned on Rick's face. This is about what Monica said last night. Your wife thinks my wife deserves better than me. She might be right. But if Julia wants to trade up, she can do it without my money backing her sister's lifestyle. Tom, Monica was drunk. She didn't mean, she meant every word, Rick. And now, you get to deal with the consequences. Monica appeared in the doorway, looking frantic. Tom, please. We've got 3 kids, a mortgage, car payments. If the business fails, then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to play marriage counselor at dinner last night. I was trying to help Julia. She's been miserable for months. Really? How miserable? Monica glanced at Rick, then back at me. She feels like she's outgrown her current situation. Her current situation being married to me? Tom, please don't make me. Say it, Monica. Tell me exactly what my wife told you about our marriage. Monica started crying. She said you were holding her back, that she felt trapped, that Scott makes her feel alive again. Rick's face went gray. Monica, what the hell are you talking about? Julia's having an affair with Scott Harlan, I said calmly. Monica's been helping her justify it by convincing her that I'm not good enough. The room went dead silent except for Monica's sobbing. Tom, Rick said quietly, I had no idea. Monica, is this true? Monica nodded miserably. Well then. Rick stood up and walked to his filing cabinet. He pulled out a bottle of whiskey and poured 3 glasses. I guess we're all screwed. I stood up and headed for the door. Not all of us, Rick. Just the people who forgot that loyalty works both ways. My phone was buzzing with texts when I got back to my truck. Julia had discovered her laptop was logged out and was panicking about whether I'd seen anything. Scott was asking if they should accelerate their timeline. Monica was begging me to reconsider. I ignored them all and drove to Emma's school.
Intimate text intro, another weather memory.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
She had soccer practice until 5, which gave me plenty of time to make some arrangements. First stop, the bank, where I opened a new account and transferred most of my money into it. Second stop, a storage unit, where I started moving my expensive tools and equipment. Third stop, Pete's office, where he handed me a manila envelope full of photos. They went to the Riverside Motel this afternoon, Pete said. Room 237. They weren't exactly worried about being seen. The photos were damning. Julia and Scott kissing in the parking lot. Scott's hand on Julia's ass as they walked into the motel room. Julia laughing at something Scott said, looking happier than I'd seen her in months. There's more, Pete said. I followed Scott home yesterday. His wife Angela was in the front yard with their kids. Nice family. She has no idea. I studied the photos, feeling something cold settle in my chest. She will soon. Tom, whatever you're planning, I'm not planning anything violent, Pete. I'm just going to make sure everyone gets what they deserve. When I picked up Emma from soccer practice, she was muddy and exhausted, but grinning from ear to ear. We won 3-1. Did you see my goal? Sorry, kiddo. I had some business to take care of. But I heard about it from Coach Martinez. She said you're getting really good. Mom missed it too. She said she had to work late again. Yeah, your mom's been working a lot of late nights lately. Emma was quiet for a moment. Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Why would you ask that? Because Sarah's parents got divorced last year. And before it happened, they were always fighting, and her dad was always angry, and her mom was always working late. Smart kid. Too smart. Emma, your mom and I are going through some problems right now. But no matter what happens, you know I love you more than anything in the world, right? I know, Dad. I love you too. That night, Julia came home at almost 10 o'clock, claiming she'd been showing houses to out-of-town clients. She was wearing different clothes than she'd left in that morning, and her hair looked like she'd finger-combed it in a car mirror. How was your day? She asked, not quite meeting my eyes. Interesting. Rick and Monica are having some financial problems. Julia paused in the middle of pouring herself a glass of wine. Oh? Yeah, apparently their business account is empty. Monica's pretty upset about it. That's terrible. What happened? I looked at my wife. Really looked at her. She was still beautiful, still charming, still the woman I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. But she was also a stranger now, someone who could lie to my face while planning to destroy our family. Sometimes people make choices that have consequences they didn't expect, I said. Sometimes those consequences affect everyone around them. Julia took a large gulp of wine. I'm sure they'll figure it out. I'm sure they will. Later, as Julia pretended to sleep beside me, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Angela Harlan. We need to talk. Angela Harlan was waiting for me at Riverside Diner the next morning, clutching a coffee cup with white knuckles. She was pretty in a wholesome way. The kind of woman who packed her kids' lunches with little notes and never missed a school play. The kind of woman who deserved better than what she was about to learn. Thank you for meeting me, she said as I slid into the booth across from her. I wasn't sure you'd come. Your text said it was about Julia and Scott. Angela's face crumpled slightly. So you know. I know. The question is, how do you know? She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. Scott's been getting careless with his texts. He left his phone on the kitchen counter yesterday and it kept buzzing. I saw this. The message was from Julia. can't wait to feel you inside me again. Tom's working late tonight. My place at 8? I felt my jaw clench. I'm sorry you had to see that. Are you? Because part of me wonders if you sent this to me somehow. Smart woman. Why would you think that? Because yesterday morning, Scott came home furious about some business deal falling through. Something about his partner's husband pulling out of an investment. That partner wouldn't happen to be Julia, would it? I sipped my coffee and studied Angela's face. She was angry, hurt, and looking for someone to blame. I could work with that. Angela, what do you want from me? I want to know how long this has been going on. I want to know if my husband is planning to leave me for your wife. And I want to know what you're going to do about it. How long have you been married? 14 years. We have 2 kids. Tommy's 10, Sarah's 8. Scott's been distant lately. Working late, taking mysterious phone calls, buying new clothes. She laughed bitterly. I thought he was having a midlife crisis. Turns out he was just having my husband. What's your plan, Angela? I don't have one. That's why I called you. You're the wronged husband. Don't you want to fight for your marriage? I thought about Julia coming home last night, lying to my face about where she'd been. I thought about Emma asking if we were getting divorced. I thought about Monica's smug face at dinner, telling me Julia could do better. No, I said finally. I don't want to fight for my marriage. I want to end it on my terms. Angela leaned back in her seat. What does that mean? It means Julia and Scott want to be together? Fine, but they're going to lose everything else in the process. I don't understand. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos Pete had taken. Angela's face went white as she scrolled through them. These were taken yesterday afternoon. Room 237 at the Riverside Motel. Angela's hands were shaking. Who took these? A friend. Someone who thinks cheating spouses should face consequences. What kind of consequences? I leaned forward. The kind that makes sure everyone in town knows exactly what Julia and Scott have been doing. The kind that makes sure they lose their jobs, their reputations, their friends. The kind that makes sure they get exactly what they deserve. Angela stared at the photos for a long moment. You want revenge. I want justice. There's a difference. Is there? Justice is making sure actions have consequences. Revenge is making sure those consequences hurt as much as possible. Angela was quiet for a long time, studying the photos. Finally, she looked up at me. What do you need from me? Over the next hour, we made a plan. Angela would confront Scott that evening, but not about the affair directly. She'd tell him she knew he was hiding something and give him a chance to confess. When he inevitably lied to her face, she'd have justification for what came next. Meanwhile, I would handle Julia and Monica and everyone else who thought they could destroy my life without consequences. I spent the afternoon making preparations. First, I visited Julia's real estate office. Her assistant, a young woman named Brenda, was always friendly when I stopped by. Hi, Mr. Grady. Julia's out showing properties, but I can leave her a message. Actually, I wanted to ask you something. Has Julia been working a lot of late nights lately? Brenda looked confused. Late nights? Not really. She usually leaves by 5, same as everyone else. Huh. She's been telling me she's been working until 8 or 9 most nights this week. That's weird. Monday she left early for a dentist appointment. Tuesday she had a lunch meeting that ran long, so she took the afternoon off. Wednesday, Brenda trailed off, looking uncomfortable. What about Wednesday? Wednesday she said she had a showing, but the clients called here looking for her around 4. They said she never showed up. I nodded thoughtfully. Well, I'm sure she just got her wires crossed. Thanks, Brenda. Next stop, Scott's office. Harlan Mortgage was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. Very classy. Scott was alone in his office, talking loudly on the phone about interest rates. He was a good-looking guy in a sleazy way. Too much cologne, too much hair gel, too much confidence. The kind of man who thought he was God's gift to women. He looked surprised when I walked in. Tom, what brings you here? Just thought I'd stop by and say hello. Julia talks about you all the time. Scott's smile faltered slightly. Oh, all good things, I hope. Oh, definitely. She says you two have been working very closely together lately. Very hands-on. Well, real estate and mortgages go hand in hand. We're just trying to provide the best service to our clients. I'm sure you are. I sat down across from his desk uninvited. You know, Scott, I've been thinking about what Monica said the other night, about Julia deserving someone more ambitious. Scott shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Monica says a lot of things. She does. But this time, I think she might be right. Julia does deserve someone who can match her ambition, someone who's willing to take risks for what they want. Tom, I'm not sure what you're getting at. I'm getting at the fact that Julia's unhappy, Scott. She's been unhappy for a while now, and I think you know exactly why. Scott's face was turning red. I think you should probably go. In a minute. First, I want to show you something. I pulled out my phone and showed him one of Pete's photos, the one of Scott's hand on Julia's ass in the motel parking lot. Scott went pale. Where did you get that? Does it matter? The question is, what are you going to do about it? Tom, listen, I can explain. No need to explain, Scott. I understand perfectly. You want my wife, you can have her, but you're going to pay for her. What does that mean? I stood up and leaned over his desk. It means you're about to learn that actions have consequences, and some consequences are more expensive than others. I left Scott's office and drove to Emma's school. She was in after-school art class, painting a landscape that looked suspiciously like the view from our backyard. That's beautiful, kiddo. Thanks, it's our house. See? There's the oak tree where you hung my swing, and there's Mom's garden. I looked at the painting, our house, our yard, our life, captured in watercolors by a 12-year-old who still believed her parents loved each other. Emma, can I ask you something? Sure. If things changed at home, if Mom and I decided we couldn't live together anymore, what would you want to happen? Emma's brush stopped moving. Are you getting divorced? I'm just asking hypothetically. I'd want to live with you, she said without hesitation. Mom's never home anyway, and when she is, she's always on her phone or getting ready to go somewhere else. You're the one who helps with my homework and makes pancakes and comes to my soccer games. What if living with me meant we had to move to a smaller house? Maybe not in as nice a neighborhood? Emma shrugged. I don't care about the house. I care about you. That evening, Julia came home at her usual fake time, 9:30 p.m., claiming she'd been showing houses. She was wearing the same clothes as that morning, but her makeup was freshly applied, and she smelled like Scott's cologne. How was your day? She asked, pouring herself a large glass of wine. Productive. I had some interesting conversations. Oh, with who? Brenda at your office. She was confused when I mentioned how hard you've been working lately. Apparently, you've been leaving early most days this week. Julia's wineglass paused halfway to her lips. Brenda doesn't keep track of my schedule. I have showings all over town. I'm sure you do. I also talked to Scott today. Now the wineglass was shaking slightly. Scott? Why? Just wanted to thank him for being such a good business partner. He seemed nervous about something, though, like he had something to hide. Julia set down her wineglass and turned to face me fully. Tom, what's going on? You're acting strange. Am I, or am I just finally paying attention? Paying attention to what? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo of her and Scott at the motel. Julia's face went white, then red, then white again. Tom, I can explain. Can you? Because I'd love to hear how you explain fucking another man, while our daughter asks me if we're getting divorced. Julia started crying. Big, dramatic tears that might have worked on me a month ago. It just happened, Tom. I didn't plan it. Scott and I were working together, and we connected, and you decided to throw away 15 years of marriage for a mortgage broker with a bad haircut and a BMW. It's not like that. You don't understand. I've been so unhappy, so trapped. Scott makes me feel alive again. Alive? You want to feel alive, Julia? Let me show you what alive feels like. I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up the manila envelope Pete had given me. I dumped the contents on the kitchen table. Dozens of photos, printouts of text messages, credit card receipts from the motel. This is what alive looks like, Julia. This is what you've been doing while I've been taking care of our daughter and supporting your sister's family and pretending everything was fine. Julia stared at the evidence of her affair spread across our kitchen table. How long have you known? Long enough to make some preparations. What kind of preparations? I smiled, and for the first time in months, it felt genuine. The kind that makes sure everyone gets exactly what they deserve. My phone buzzed with a text from Angela. It's done. Scott confessed everything. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. I showed the text to Julia. Looks like your boyfriend's about to be single. Of course, he's also about to be broke, unemployed, and homeless. But I'm sure love will conquer all. Julia was crying harder now. Tom, please, we can work this out. I'll end it with Scott. We can go to counseling. No, Julia, we can't. Because this isn't just about you cheating. This is about you planning to leave me for him. This is about you and Monica conspiring to humiliate me. This is about you lying to our daughter's face every single day. I never wanted to hurt Emma. Then you should have thought about that before you decided to fuck your business partner in a cheap motel. Julia flinched like I'd slapped her. Don't talk to me like that. I'll talk to you however I want, Julia. You lost the right to dictate terms when you decided to betray our family. What are you going to do? I gathered up the photos and documents, putting them back in the envelope. I'm going to make